You look at the internal evidence and you look at the fact that the names, the places, the facts, the information all tie it to the first century in Galilee of people who either they were there themselves and they're communicating this, or like the gospel author Luke says, that he's interviewing eyewitnesses. He says that at the beginning of his gospel. He's very purposeful. I wasn't there, but I'm writing these things down. I'm making an orderly account. I'm interviewing eyewitnesses so that you may know the things you are taught. And so you look at these levels of the things that we're trying to highlight with the Can I Trust the Bible series, the internal evidence, and with the names, the places, the people, and you see that and you go, wow, this is testifying to it being written in the place it's claiming to be written, in the time frame it's claiming to be written. And when we use that exact same methodology and criteria for something like the Gospel of Judas, guess what it reveals? That the names, the places, the details outed as being written in 3rd century Egypt. And so you're like, so when you ask, well, what is the piece of evidence? I think it's a multivalent web that all conjoins at the truthful claim of all of these things are pointing to this guy, Jesus.
Oh, God.
They're all pointing. There's prophecies in the Old Testament. There's an expectation. This guy, Jesus, he comes on the scene. He fulfills, in some instances, very specific prophecies. He predicts his own death and resurrection, and then he does it. And as a friend of mine likes to say, people who rise from the dead have more credibility and authority than people who don't rise from the dead. Right? And so I find it so fascinating that I'm a trained historian, so I look at the historical data. But when I talk to my colleagues and friends who are scientists, who are philosophers, who are sociologists, and they also have all of these different kind of lines of argumentation, some of which, I don't like this one, I don't like that one, but it's the cumulative case that points to the truthfulness. So you could eliminate one, and I don't think it wouldn't collapse my worldview. Because I genuinely believe that at this point, with my inquiry and investigation, like I said before, I think it's intellectually robust. But it's also existentially satisfying. It's changed my life. It's changed the way that I think. Mm-hmm. C.S. Lewis, who I quoted before, he said, I believe in Jesus like I believe in the sun. Not that I see it, but that by it, I see everything else. And so that's why we call it a worldview. Right? It's how we view the world around us. And when we were talking before about, those times where we struggle, those seasons of the dark nights of the soul, it's not that those aren't tangible, but it's when I'm really struggling, I go back to, listen, I have something that points to truthfulness. And despite my very subjective feelings, despite what I might be struggling with right now, I genuinely believe this is true. And the truthfulness of that changes the way that I live for the better. That has echoes into not just this life, which should be lived well, which should be lived with integrity, but after my mortal coil is given up and I go into eternity, that more questions will be answered in a way that I never could have understood before.
I'm curious about this too. What has strengthened your faith more? Is it through your research or is it through your personal experiences? When I say personal experiences, I mean the miracle that you're not paralyzed from the waist down now. Stuff like that.
I'm not sure it's an either or. I think it's a both and. I don't think, faith isn't an intellectual endeavor. I don't think we're going to stand before God and he's going to give us a theological test. Because if he did, I'd fail, right? I think we'd all fail. It goes beyond that. Paul, I read his in Ephesians chapter 2 earlier. He says, faith is a gift. It's a gift. You're saved by faith through grace. And there's something about that which has always been very tangible for me, especially in my field, where there are plenty of non-believing, atheist, agnostic, biblical scholars who know all sorts of things that are even like go beyond even my level of understanding. And that's been a testimony to me that you can't intellectualize yourself into the kingdom of God. It's not about that. It's not about knowing the most. There is something that is genuinely goes beyond, that's transcendent, beyond just the simple understanding, right? James even says, you believe that God is one. He says, great. Even the demons believe that, and they shudder at that fact. It's not about, who knows God the best? That's probably Satan. But what is different about the understanding that goes beyond? I think the factual knowledge sits as kind of the confidence building of I can have hope because I truly believe that this is something that is true with a capital T. But beyond that, I've actually seen Jesus change my life. I've seen Jesus take my heart of stone and give me a heart of flesh and remove desires that I had before to do things that were wrong.
You had a heart of stone?
Yeah, we all have hearts of stone.
Can't see it.
We all have hearts of stone. And apart from the saving work of the Spirit speaking into our life, we are going to choose death 100% of the time. Me, Wes. Without God working in me, I am going to fight him with everything I have because I don't know what's good for me.